Okay, so I have a question for you today.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to be honest with you and, well, with everyone listening right now. I hesitated to even put this in the script because it's rude. It's actually a very nasty, uncomfortable question.
Yeah, I saw the notes this morning, and you aren't kidding. It's the kind of question that ruins a dinner party. It's the kind of question that makes you want to throw your phone across the room.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the sources we're looking at today, this whole stack of research and articles we're using for this deep dive, they revolve around this concept of the architecture of irreplaceability. And they argue that this question is really the only one that matters in 2026. If you can't answer this, nothing else really matters. So I'm just going to rip the Band-Aid off. You ready?
I am ready. Hit me.
If artificial intelligence replaced you tomorrow, like completely took over your job, your output, your deliverables, would your clients even know?
Oof. Okay. Even knowing it was coming, that lands heavy.
Right. But it gets worse. Let's say they did notice. Let's say they realize, hey, the tone is a little different here. The follow-up jab from the source material is, would they actually miss you, the human being? Or would they just be happy that their emails are getting answered at 3 a.m. on a Sunday with 0 typos?
See, that's the dagger right there. Because
Yeah.
it's not just about, can a robot do the task? It's asking, is there any human residue left in your work that actually has economic value?
Human residue. I really like that image, but it's terrifying. Because if I look at my week, honestly, how many emails did I send that were just thanks, received? Or how many reports did I write that were just summarizing data from one spreadsheet to another? If that's my job, then the answer to the question is no, they wouldn't miss me. They'd prefer the bot. The bot doesn't get tired, it doesn't complain, and it certainly doesn't need coffee breaks.
And that is exactly where we have to start. The sources here aren't trying to depress us, though they are doing a pretty stellar job of it so far. They are trying to force an audit, a value audit. We have to look at the professional landscape, not through the lens of 2022 or 2024, but the reality of 2026.
So that's our mission for this deep dive. We are going to drag that fear right out into the light. We're moving past the whole AI is Skynet doom scrolling, and we're moving past the AI is a magic wand hype too. We are talking about something the source material calls strategic identity and intellectual property exposure.
Which I know sounds incredibly technical, but it's actually deeply personal. It's a fancy way of saying how to make sure you are the architect of the machine, not just the guy who gets run over by it. Differentiation is no longer just a marketing buzzword you throw around. It's a survival mechanism.
Right. So let's unpack this, because the sources make a really bold claim right out of the gate. They say that this isn't about learning how to use the tools better. It's not a tutorial on the top 10 prompts for Midjourney. It's about ensuring you are the one driving the tools.
Precisely. And to understand that, we have to look at the first big shift in the narrative. We see headlines everywhere saying AI is coming for everyone's job. It's this tidal wave of anxiety. But the source material offers a counter-argument that is remarkably grounding. It essentially says, calm down.
Calm down. Easy for them to say.
Oh, hear them out. The argument is that AI isn't replacing competent, differentiated business owners. It is replacing generic thinking.
Generic thinking. That is a stinging phrase.
It is, but we need to define what that means technically to understand why it's true. We need to look at what an LLM, a large language model, actually is at its core.
Right, because we constantly attribute personality to it. We say ChatGPT thinks about this or Claude wants that, but it doesn't want anything. It's just software.
Exactly. At its core, these models are just massive, hyper-complex prediction engines. They are probabilistic. They look at a sequence of words and calculate, based on the entire internet, based on terabytes of human text, what is the most statistically likely word to come next.
So they are designed to be average.
Yes, by definition. If you pick the most likely path every single time, you are generating the most standard human thought possible. You're generating the average of all human knowledge. You are smoothing out all the edges.
That really clicks. So when the source says AI exposes generic thinking, it means if my thinking is just the standard industry advice.
Then you are competing directly with a machine that can generate standard industry advice instantly and for free. If your business model is regurgitating the top 5 results of a Google search in a nice PowerPoint, you don't have a business anymore. You have a formatting hobby.
A formatting hobby. That is brutal. But let's look at the list the source gives. They mention specific things that are being exposed by this spotlight. Things like recycled marketing phrases. Give me an example of that. What gets exposed here?
Think about every LinkedIn post you've seen this week. Unlocking potential, synergizing workflows, taking a deep dive into the metrics.
Hey, Easy on deep dive, that's our brand. We're grandfathered in.
We get a pass because we're ironic about it. But seriously, if you strip away your logo, does your strategy look exactly like your competitor's strategy? The source calls this the commodity trap. AI lowers the cost of average to absolute zero. So if you are selling average, your price point is headed to zero.
It creates a moat problem. I know in business school they talk about a moat as your defensibility, like what protects you from competition.
Right. And for a long, long time, formatting was a moat. I can make this look professional was a highly paid skill. I can write a sentence without grammar errors was a skill.
And now,
Now, formatting is automated. Grammar is automated. The source literally says if you rely on recycled phrases, Canva templates with motivational quotes, or offers that look exactly like your competitors, but with heart, you don't have a moat. You have formatting.
I feel like a lot of people fall into that with Heart Trap. They say, well, my differentiator is that I care more about my clients.
And look, that is noble. But can a prospective client see care in a proposal, or do they just see the exact same deliverables at a higher price? The harsh reality is that care is really hard to scale and hard to prove until after they hire you. You need a moat that is visible before they buy.
This really redefines the threat, doesn't it? Because usually when people worry about AI, they worry that the AI is smarter than them. Oh no, the computer is a genius. But this suggests the threat isn't that AI is a genius. The threat is that average is now easily copied.
That's it. It's the commoditization of average. If you are doing what everyone else is doing, you are just part of a pattern. And that leads us directly into the mechanics of why this is happening. Automation absolutely loves patterns.
It eats patterns for breakfast.
It does. And the source material has this quote that I circled 3 times because it's just so blunt. Most businesses are just patterns with logos.
Wow. Patterns with logos, that cuts deep.
It does, but think about it. If you look at a specific industry, say digital marketing or accounting or even life coaching, and you zoom out, how much of what they do is truly unique and how much is just the standard operating procedure for that industry?
Yeah. You see the same website layouts, the same 3 steps to success, the same pricing tiers,
Yeah.
silver, gold, platinum.
Exactly. That is a pattern. And because small business strategies often rely on volume, doing more of the same thing rather than differentiation, they are feeding right into the strength of the automation. If your strategy is volume-based pattern replication, automation wins every single time. It can run the pattern faster, cheaper, and without sleeping.
So we need to draw a line in the sand here. The sources create this dichotomy between execution and strategy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is where a lot of people get tripped up.
Mm-hmm.
We feel productive when we are executing, right?
Mhm.
Execution feels like real work.
It does. It stimulates the brain. You check a box. You feel a dopamine hit. I sent the email. I posted the blog.
So let's break down what falls under execution according to our sources. The stuff AI is great at.
Okay, so drafting content, that's execution. Summarizing data, organizing workflows, handling repetitive tasks, accelerating production. These are all things AI does incredibly well.
And notice, that is like 90% of what most people do in a given workday.
It is, and that's the danger zone. Because if that is where you think your value lies, you are in trouble. Now contrast that with what AI cannot replace, or at least cannot replace yet.
Okay, hit me with the strategy list. What's on the safe side of the line?
Strategic judgment. That ability to make a call when the data is ambiguous. Industry nuance, understanding the unwritten rules of a specific field. Relationship capital. Proprietary frameworks, which means your specific way of solving a problem. And clear positioning.
There is a rule of thumb mentioned in the text that I think is a great litmus test for this. They call it the 30-second rule.
Yes, this is a practical takeaway for you listening right now. If your value proposition, the thing you say you do for money, can be replicated by AI tools in under 30 seconds, the issue isn't the tool, it's your positioning.
That is tough to hear. If I can go to ChatGPT and say, write me a social media plan for a coffee shop, and it spits out something that looks 80% like what a professional would charge for.
Then that professional is selling execution, not ownership. And that's a key phrase the source uses. AI produces output. It cannot produce ownership.
I want to dig into that ownership idea more in a bit.
Yeah.
Especially this idea of IP strategy. But before we get to the solution, I think we need to linger in the discomfort a little longer.
I agree. We need to really diagnose the problem before we prescribe the medicine.
The source material suggests running replaceability tests. And they actually warn us, discomfort is data. So if you're listening to this and you start feeling a little defensive or a little squeamish, that's actually good. It means we're hitting a nerve that matters.
Absolutely. If you feel comfortable, you're probably either already highly differentiated or you're in deep denial. But if you feel that pinch, that's the signal to pay attention.
Okay, so there are 4 questions in this test. I want to go through them slowly. I want us to really apply them. Question number 1 is the content test. Could AI recreate your last 10 posts?
This one is tricky because people will instantly say, well, AI doesn't have my memories. And that's true. But look at the substance of the posts. Are they generic tips? 5 ways to boost productivity. Why hydration is important for focus.
Right. Motivational quotes. Generic industry news. Here's a picture of my coffee and my laptop.
If the content is just general information, the answer is yes. AI can absolutely recreate it. And if the answer is yes, it signals a lack of unique voice or perspective. You are feeding the pattern, not breaking it. The AI knows that hydration is important. It has read every health blog on Earth. It doesn't need you to tell it that.
So what's the differentiator there? How do you pass the content test?
The differentiator is opinion, conflict, personal experience applied to a brand new context. AI is inherently bad at having a strong, controversial opinion because it's trying to be average and safe. If you are safe, you are replaceable.
Got it. Okay, moving to question number 2, the competitor test. Could a competitor copy your offer structure in a week?
This speaks to the depth of what you sell. Let's imagine you are a graphic designer. Is your offer simply, I will design a logo for $500?
This seems pretty standard.
It is. And because it's standard, it's a commodity. A competitor can see that, say, I'll do it for $450 and steal your lunch. Or an AI can say, I'll do it for free in 4 seconds.
So what's the alternative?
The alternative is a complex, nuanced solution that requires your specific infrastructure to deliver. Instead of I design logos, it's I run the brand identity deep dive protocol, which includes a 3-stage market analysis, a visual psychology audit, and a trademark feasibility study.
Okay, that sounds significantly harder to copy over a weekend.
Exactly. If I can look at your website,
Yeah.
copy your pricing table, and launch a competing service next Tuesday, you are selling a commodity. You want to build something where a competitor looks at it and says, I have no idea how they actually pulled that off.
You want to be a black box of value.
Precisely. You want the output to be amazing, but the internal mechanism to be proprietary.
Okay, question number 3. This is the scary one for the solopreneurs out there. The revenue test. If you disappeared for 30 days, would revenue continue?
This tests dependencies. If the revenue stops the exact moment you stop typing, you aren't really running a business in the asset sense. You are monetizing your own daily labor.
Which is fine. But there's nothing inherently wrong with being a high-paid laborer. Lawyers do it. Doctors do it.
There is nothing wrong with it, no. But in the context of AI, it's highly risky. Because if you are selling your time and labor and AI can do the labor much faster, the value of your time collapses. You need a system or an asset that exists outside of your immediate real-time effort.
So if you're a writer and AI drives the cost of generating words to zero and you haven't built a brand or a system,
Then you are trying to sell ice in the winter. The market value of the raw labor is plummeting. You have to sell the strategy behind the words, not the typing of the words.
that leads perfectly into question number 4, which I think is the most critical one for our discussion on architecture. The process test. Is your process documented and systemized, or is it just how you do things?
This is the silent killer. Just how I do things. I hear this all the time from experts. I can't write it down. It's intuition. It's an art form.
I feel totally called out right now. Intuition is my entire operating system. It's just vibes.
And we wear that like a badge of honor, don't we? But the source argues that intuition is very often just undocumented process.
Explain that a bit more.
Well, you aren't just guessing wildly. You are recognizing patterns based on years of experience and you're reacting to them. That is a process that's just trapped inside your neurons. The problem is if it's trapped in your neurons, it's not an asset, it's a massive bottleneck.
Because I can't hand my neurons to a junior employee.
And you certainly can't hand them to an AI. If you want to use AI effectively, you have to be able to give it structured instructions. You can't prompt an AI with, hey, just give it that special pizzazz I usually do.
I've tried. It really doesn't work. It usually adds a bunch of rocket emojis and calls it a day.
Exactly. You have to be able to say, step 1, analyze the tone using these specific parameters. Step 2, apply these 3 constraints. Step 3, format it according to this specific structure. If you haven't done the hard work of extracting that logic from your brain, you are safe from AI replacing you, sure, but you're also stuck doing the manual work forever.
So if you're tallying up your score as you listen and you're thinking, oh boy, AI could write my posts, my competitor could copy my offer, revenue stops if I nap, and my process is a mess of sticky notes. What does that mean?
It means you are ready.
Ready. That sounds surprisingly optimistic.
It is. The source says, if your answers make you uncomfortable, good. It means you're ready to build something that cannot be replicated. It's a wake-up call. And it's important to remember the historical context here. This isn't the first time this has happened in human history.
Right. The sources explicitly mention that automation replacing repetitive tasks isn't a new phenomenon.
Not at all. It happened in manufacturing, it happened in logistics, data entry, even large parts of finance. AI is just the latest, fastest version of a trend that has been going on for over a century. The difference is that now it's coming for creative and knowledge work.
So let's pivot to the solution. We've done the audit. We feel the burn. How do we actually fix it? The text introduces this concept of intellectual property strategy.
Right.
But they are very specific that they don't just mean calling a lawyer and filing a patent.
Right. When we say IP in this context, we aren't talking about legal trademarks necessarily. We're talking about crystallized thinking.
Crystallized thinking. I love that image. It sounds solid, unbreakable.
It's the exact opposite of automated mediocrity. The source makes this brilliant comparison. You can ask AI to write a marketing strategy, and it will do it. It will give you a perfectly average, serviceable strategy. But if you use that, you have automated being average. You're just louder average.
So what does modern IP actually look like? How do I turn my vibes into frameworks?
It starts with putting a name on your methods, creating a named methodology.
Okay, let's get really practical. Can you give me a concrete example? Let's say I'm a consultant who helps corporate teams communicate better.
Okay. If you go to market saying, I help teams communicate better, you are a commodity. AI can give 50 tips on corporate communication in 2 seconds. But let's say you analyze your own past success. You realize you always make teams do a specific morning stand-up format and a Friday retro with 3 very specific questions.
Okay, standard consulting stuff, but it works.
But you bundle that. You give it a name. You call it the bookend communication protocol. You define the rules. You create a PDF that explains exactly how to run it. Suddenly, you aren't selling generic communication advice. You are selling the bookend protocol.
I see. It's the exact same work, but packaged as a product. It's an object now.
It's an object. And even if someone else cleans up communication issues, they aren't doing that method. It creates a proprietary feel. You own the bookend protocol.
And here is why this matters for AI. And this is the part that totally blew my mind when I read the notes. Once it is a named framework with concrete rules, you can train a custom GPT on it.
Yes. This is where the rubber finally meets the road. If you have the bookend protocol written down, you can upload that document to ChatGPT. Then you can say, analyze this messy meeting transcript against the bookend protocol rules. Where did this team fail?
Wow. So because I named it and defined it, the AI can now act as my junior consultant using my brain.
Exactly. You have architected the AI. If you hadn't named the protocol, you'd just be asking ChatGPT, was this meeting good? And it would give you a generic, polite answer. The specificity is the leverage.
The source uses a really powerful mindset shift here, the shift from consumer to architect.
This is pivotal. Most people are currently consumers of AI. They log in, they type a prompt, they consume the output. They are like someone buying a microwave dinner. It's fast, it's easy, but you didn't make it, and it tastes the exact same for everyone who buys it.
And the architect.
The architect writes the recipe book, they design the system, they're architecting the AI, they aren't asking AI to think for them, they are building the structure in which the AI operates.
There's a quote here in the text, that's where leverage lives.
Leverage is the ability to get outsized results from your effort. If you are just typing basic prompts, you have very little leverage. If you build a system that uses prompts to execute a complex, unique vision, you have massive leverage.
So let's talk about what winning looks like in this new world, because I think there's a huge misconception that you either have to be a tech genius coding in Python or a total Luddite who refuses to use computers at all.
The source creates a very clear profile of the winner, and it's neither of those extremes. The winner isn't the person who avoids AI, that's a fast track to irrelevance, but the winner also isn't the person who blindly copies whatever the AI spits out.
So who are they?
They are the ones who use AI for execution but maintain human control over direction.
Control over direction. That really seems to be the linchpin of everything we were talking about.
It is. They build systems instead of posting randomly. They turn their expertise into documented processes. They protect their thinking as a tangible asset.
There's an analogy in the text that I think clarifies this perfectly. AI is the engine. You are the driver.
Yes, and the critical warning that comes right after it. If the engine determines the destination, you were never in control.
That is profound. If you just let ChatGPT decide what you're going to talk about today or what your strategy for the quarter is, you aren't driving. You're just a passenger in a very fast car.
And if you don't know where you're going, a fast car just gets you lost faster.
That is very true. I've been there, metaphorically and literally. But this brings us to the concept of the premium on clarity. In a world where content is infinite and cheap, I mean, the cost of generating 1,000 words is basically zero now. So what actually becomes valuable?
Scarcity always determines value. So if words are cheap, clarity, structure, and ownership become expensive. They become the premium. You don't need to compete with AI on volume. You can't. You need to build something AI cannot replicate without your specific blueprint.
I want to get practical about that blueprint idea. The source material talks about custom GPTs in infrastructure. Now, when I hear custom GPT, I usually think of a little customer service bot in the corner of a website that says, "Have you tried turning it off and on again?"
Right. And that is the low-level use case. But the source is talking about something much more sophisticated, way beyond the chatbot. They call them strategic execution engines trained on how you think.
Trained on how you think.
Yeah.
That sounds very sci-fi, but we're essentially talking about giving the AI context, right?
Exactly. It's about the context window and the knowledge base.
Okay, break that down for the non-techies listening.
Think of the context window as the AI's short-term memory and the knowledge base as the private library it can reference.
Yeah.
The standard ChatGPT has the whole public internet as a library, but it doesn't know you.
It doesn't know my business, my past clients, my style, my failures.
Right, so the winner builds a mirror.
The mirror.
Imagine you take every email you've written in the last 5 years, the ones where you really solved a hard problem. You take your brand manifesto. You take your bookend protocol documents. You strip out the private data, and you upload all of that into a knowledge base for a custom GPT.
Okay, so I'm giving the AI a memory of my absolute best work.
You are giving it deep context. You are essentially fine-tuning it on your worldview. Now, when you have a new client problem, you don't ask the generic model. You ask your model.
Hey, custom GPT, based on how I solved the Smith case in 2023, how should I approach this Jones case?
And because it has the context, the output isn't generic. It's you. It's you scaled. It's a clone of your logic, not just a generator of text. This is the ultimate form of the moat we talked about earlier.
Because even if a competitor uses GPT-5 or whatever comes next, they don't have your data. They don't have your archive.
Exactly. You have embedded your positioning into the infrastructure itself. You've made yourself the operating system.
This brings us back to a really hard truth mentioned in the source. If your value disappears when the tool changes, you were never the value.
That is the one that keeps you up at night. But it's the necessary wake-up call. If your entire business model collapses because a new version of GPT comes out, you didn't have a business model. You had an arbitrage on a temporary inefficiency.
Ouch, but true.
So this is the real call to action here. If you don't build this infrastructure, the strategic identity, you are, as the source puts it, volunteering to become replaceable later.
Volunteering to be replaceable. No one wants to sign up for that.
No. But by doing nothing or by just casually using AI without architecting it, that is exactly the box you are checking.
So let's connect this back to you, the listener. We've gone from the fear of emails being faster to the replaceability test to the solution of intellectual property.
Yeah.
What does this look like on a Monday morning when you sit down at your desk?
It looks like stopping the random acts of content. It looks like taking a step back to document how you actually do what you do. It looks like giving your unique way of work in a name.
Naming it seems so simple, but it's deeply psychological, isn't it?
It's branding, but it's also clarifying. Once you name a process, it becomes an object. It becomes something you can improve, something you can teach, and something you can train an AI on. You can't train an AI on vibes. You can train it on a named framework.
That is such a good point. You can't prompt it by saying, do it like I feel it should be done.
Exactly. You have to be able to articulate the logic. And that is the hard work. That is why most people won't do it. And that is precisely why the people who do it will win.
Because clarity is hard work.
Clarity is grueling. It is much easier to just be busy. But being busy is what gets replaced. Being clear is what gets rewarded.
This idea of architecture really resonates. It changes the mental image from a race where I'm running on a track against a robot to a construction site where I'm building the building and the robot is just the crane.
I love that analogy. You don't get mad at the crane for being strong. You use the crane to lift heavy beams you couldn't lift yourself. But the crane doesn't know where the beam goes, the architect does.
So we need to become architects.
That is the core shift. From consumer to architect. From formatting to ownership. from pattern to clarity.
I want to revisit the custom GPT aspect for a moment because the source mentions it specifically as a way to create a moat. How accessible is this for the average business owner? Is this something you need a degree in computer science for?
That's the beauty of it. No, the tools are becoming increasingly natural language based. You don't need to code Python to build a custom GPT anymore. You need to be able to explain your logic clearly in plain English.
So the barrier to entry isn't technical skill anymore.
No, the barrier to entry is self-knowledge. Do you actually know how you make decisions? Can you explain it step by step? If you can explain it, you can build it. The limitation is no longer the code, it's the clarity of your thinking.
That is actually incredibly empowering. It puts the ball entirely back in our court.
It does. It removes the excuse of, I'm not technical. If you are an expert in your field, you have the raw material, you just need to refine it into a system.
Yeah. I want to cycle back to the beginning, to that uncomfortable feeling we started with. The source says, if this blog made you uncomfortable, good.
Yes. Discomfort is the catalyst for growth. If you looked at those questions, could a competitor copy me in a week and you felt a pit in your stomach, hold on to that.
Yeah.
Use it.
Don't just scroll past it.
Don't scroll past it. Let it drive you to document your process. Let it drive you to sharpen your positioning. Let it drive you to stop settling for generic thinking.
Because the alternative is, well, the alternative is just having faster emails.
Right. And nobody wants their legacy to be, he was a really fast emailer.
Here lies our friend. He cleared his inbox by 11 a.m. He was very efficient, but entirely forgettable.
A tragedy. A modern corporate tragedy.
Truly. So as we wrap this up, let's summarize the journey we've been on. This was a really dense one.
It was. We started with the fear of replacement, but we realized that AI is actually an exposure mechanism. It exposes sameness. We learned that automation loves patterns, so if you are a pattern, you are vulnerable.
We took the replaceability test, which was painful, and realized that if our revenue relies on our presence, or if our content is generic, we have major work to do.
And the solution isn't to smash the machines. The solution is strategic identity, building intellectual property, creating systems, naming methodologies, and training the infrastructure to think like you. It's about becoming the architect.
AI directed with discipline. That was a phrase from the text that really stuck with me.
A perfect summary. Discipline. It's not magic, it's discipline.
So I want to leave you listening to this right now with that final provocative thought from our source material. We started with it, but now that we've unpacked everything, it hits a lot differently.
If AI replaced you tomorrow, would systems break, or would the only difference be the typing speed?
Would systems break? That's the bar. You want to build something so integral, so structurally sound, that removing you or your unique system causes an absolute collapse. That sounds negative, but in business, being the load-bearing wall is a very good thing.
Being essential is the goal, not because you are incredibly busy, but because you are foundational.
Exactly. So stop being a pattern with a logo. Start building a strategic identity.
Be the architect.
And hey, if you're wondering, did an AI write this script?
If it did, it's a very charming one.
I like to think we have a little more strategic judgment than a chatbot.
I certainly hope so. But hey, maybe we are just a really, really good custom GPT.
Now you're going to give everyone an existential crisis.
Just keeping you on your toes.
Thanks for diving in with us. This has been a heavy one, but an incredibly important one.
Absolutely. Go build something irreplaceable.
See you on the next deep dive.